The phone rang for the third time that morning. My hands shook as I stared at it, unsure if I had the strength to answer. When I finally did, the sound of my daughter's labored breathing filled the line. "Mom, I can't breathe," she whispered, her voice trembling with fear I couldn't erase. My chest tightened as I held the phone closer, trying to imagine her lying in a hospital bed, struggling for every inhale. I immediately thought of my parents. Maybe they could help. Maybe they could lend support, even if only emotionally. I dialed their number, my voice shaking when they picked up. "Mom, Dad, she's really sick. I don't know if she can make it. Please, we need help," I pleaded. There was silence on the other end. Finally, my mother spoke, flat, cold, and distant. "I don't think this is our problem," she said. My father chuckled softly in the background. "We can't be everywhere, you know. You've got to manage somehow." I froze. My daughter's life hung in the balance, and the people who were supposed to care refused to lift a finger. I need you, please," I whispered, desperation clawing at my chest. "No," my mother said simply. "You have to handle it. We won't interfere." The line went dead. I sank into the chair, shaking. I stared at the phone as if it had betrayed me. My daughter's fragile breathing echoed in my mind, each gasp a reminder that time was running out. And all I had was silence from my own parents. I thought of my brother. Of all the years they praised him, supported him, invested in him. Their resources, their attention, their love, it had never been mine, and apparently, it never would be. A dull anger began to burn through the grief. How could they watch someone suffer and not act? How could they freely give to my brother, but deny my dying child even the smallest bit of help? I pressed the phone to my chest, closing my eyes, imagining what I could do alone. Somehow, I would have to fight this battle. Somehow, I would have to save her, even without them. That day, I realized something I had never truly faced before: my parents would never be on my side. Not for me. Not for my children. And if I wanted to protect what mattered most, I could only rely on myself. The quiet resolve settled over me like armor. I would not let their indifference define the end of my daughter's story. Not today. Not ever. Weeks after that devastating phone call, life became a blur of hospital visits, sleepless nights, and endless prayers. I focused every ounce of my energy on my daughter, fighting for her with everything I had. But even in the middle of her struggle, a small part of me couldn't stop wondering about my parents, about why they had abandoned us so completely. The answer came in the most infuriating way. It was a casual conversation with a distant cousin who had visited my brother recently. They mentioned, almost offhandedly, that my brother had moved into a new house, completely furnished, thanks to Mom and Dad. I froze mid-breath. A new house. They had given him a house, fully paid, beautifully furnished, every detail taken care of. While my daughter, their own grandchild, was fighting for her life, and they had refused to lift a finger. The injustice hit me like a physical blow. My stomach churned, and anger began to coil inside me, sharp and relentless. I couldn't understand it, and yet, I knew I did. This had always been them. The favoritism, the selective love, the willingness to lavish gifts and attention on the child they deemed worthy. It was nothing new. But this crossed a line I wasn't prepared to ignore. I wanted to scream. I wanted to confront them immediately. But I didn't. Not yet. I had to hold on to my focus, to my daughter, to the fight that mattered most. I had learned long ago that anger alone wouldn't protect anyone. Strategy would. Timing would. Still, every time I looked at my daughter, I felt the sting of their betrayal. She deserved the same love, the same support, the same care my brother received without question. Yet they chose to prioritize him, leaving her and me to fend for ourselves. That realization hardened something inside me. I wasn't powerless. I wouldn't let their hypocrisy go unchecked. I would survive this, and when the time came, they would see the truth about who they really were, who they had always been, and the cost of their choices. And deep down, I knew I would make them confront it. Because some betrayals can't stay hidden forever, and some injustices demand reckoning. I held my daughter's hand tighter that night, promising myself silently one day they would regret choosing him over her. One day, they would face the consequences of their cruelty. And I would be there to ensure they did. The anger simmered for weeks, turning into a quiet, focused determination. I couldn't change what had already happened. My daughter's illness had pushed me to the edge, but I could control what came next. I could make sure my parents understood, in a way they couldn't ignore, just how cruel their choices had been. I started by gathering evidence. The construction papers for my brother's new house, receipts for the furniture and renovations, messages from the contractor, all proof that my parents had funded every detail while pretending we were on our own. Every photograph of my daughter in the hospital, every note from doctors, every heart-wrenching moment of her struggle, I documented that too. This wasn't about revenge for the sake of anger. It was about truth. Every day, I rehearsed what I would say, how I would present it, and the exact moment when they would finally have no way to dismiss me. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to cry. I would let the facts speak for themselves. I also thought about my daughter. She had fought so hard. I wanted to honor her courage, her life, and the strength she had shown despite their indifference. Her story would be the core of my confrontation. If nothing else, it would remind them that love, real love, doesn't come with conditions. By the time I was ready, I had built a narrative they couldn't refute. I had every document, every photo, every witness lined up. It wasn't impulsive. It wasn't emotional. It was deliberate, precise, and unassailable. The day finally came. My parents were hosting a small family gathering, showing off my brother's new home. They were proud, oblivious to the storm heading their way. I arrived quietly, unnoticed at first, observing the scene. Everything looked perfect: laughter, applause, congratulations. And yet, I felt nothing but the calm resolve of someone about to expose the truth. When the moment was right, I stepped forward. The room fell silent as I pulled out the folder of evidence. Their faces shifted immediately: curiosity, confusion, then a flicker of panic. I let them watch as I laid out the documents, the receipts, the photographs of my daughter's struggle, the messages they had ignored. Every word, every image, every undeniable fact struck like a hammer. They had tried to hide their favoritism. They had tried to pretend it didn't exist. But the truth was undeniable. And I was about to make sure they could never forget it. The room was silent, heavy with tension, the kind of silence that comes when a truth lands so fully. It leaves no room for denial. My parents' faces were pale, eyes wide, mouths opening and closing like fish out of water. My brother shifted uncomfortably, clearly unsure what to say, as if the weight of the evidence I had laid before them had shattered the carefully curated illusion they had all believed in. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. "You see this?" I asked, holding up the folder. "Every receipt, every document, every message I sent you begging for help for my daughter." My mother's hand shook as she reached for her glass, and my father's jaw tightened. Neither of them dared to speak. "You refused to help her," I continued, my voice calm but sharp. "You refused to even try. while you secretly paid for my brother's new house. Every detail, furniture, renovations, permits, completely funded by you, while I was left to watch my child suffer alone. My brother's eyes darted down at his hands, guilt flickering across his face. My sister, who had stood by silently, looked at me with understanding and a small, proud smile. "I'm not here to attack you," I said slowly, letting each word sink in. "I'm here to show you the consequences of your choices. You prioritized money and appearances over a child's life. You chose him over her. You chose him over me." My mother opened her mouth, probably to deny it, but I held up my hand. "There's no denial left. The proof is here, plain and simple. No excuses, no explanations, no justifications can undo what you refuse to do." Tears welled in my eyes, not from weakness, but from the release of years of grief, anger, and betrayal. I had carried it silently for too long, and now they were forced to face it. The room was still. Not a word. Not a single defense. For once, they couldn't twist the truth. They couldn't ignore it. I looked at my daughter's photographs on my phone. Her small face, full of courage even in sickness. I held the phone up so they could see her smile. "This is the child you abandoned," I said softly. "And I hope one day you understand what it feels like to have someone you love in need and do nothing." No response came. Only silence, the kind that burns and lingers, heavier than anger or shame. I closed the folder, turned, and walked away. My back was straight. My heart, finally, was free. Because I had proven what they never wanted to see. Their choices didn't define me. Their neglect didn't break me. And their favoritism would never erase the truth. Some truths, I realized, are unstoppable. And some reckonings last a lifetime.